Well, hi guys and gals. We're back at it again on the Goofy cart, and I have the body sitting on here, as you can see, and we're pulling the flywheel off because we're going to advance the timing. Now, right now, you can see where the key is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark my crankshaft and I'm going to mark the flywheel. I won't have to mark the flywheel because I'll be able to see the slot. But I'm going to mark the crankshaft so that when I rotate the flywheel, it will move the space of that key. And I'm guessing that that's probably going to be around 10 degrees. All right, so now I've got to pull the flywheel off enough so I can get that key out of there, and then we'll crank it, and then we'll tighten that puppy down. Now I'm going to remind you again before everybody goes, "Oh, George, what are you going to do? The flywheel's going to spin," and you know, The flywheel will not spin once it is seated back in place. And how do we know that? Because, well, tie rod ends, as long as they're tight into the sleeve, which is tapered, it will not twist. Another thing that we can look at, and it reminded me of this the other day, is that the chuck on my drill press has a taper on it, and all that holds it in place and all the spinning that it does, all that holds it in place is the friction fit between male and female tapered ends. And I can demonstrate that for you even more. I had a problem with this coming loose the other day when I was using a 3 1/8 inch hole saw to drill the holes for my gauges on the dashboard, and I ended up, after it popped loose a couple of times, I took it off and cleaned it. Now this is my lathe, and down in here is a tapered, female tapered fitting, and that is made so that you could put things like a live center on it. See that? And this just slides right into that hole like that. And if all I got to do is put a little pressure on it, and that'll hold it in place. And I also have a chuck that has another taper in it, that has a shaft that goes in here and also goes in there. The only thing that holds them in place is that friction fit. And as I was telling you, my drill press, when it came apart, I found out that my two fittings, both the male and the female on it, were pretty dirty, and I thought I had cleaned them well when I was restoring this, but evidently not well enough. So I cleaned up the male that came down out of the quill and used a little bit of Scotch-Brite on it while I had it spinning, got rid of all the gobbledygook on it, and then I did the same inside of the chuck, and I finished drilling the holes with no problems with it coming loose. So those demonstrate the point that we're making here, and I'll show you when we pull this flywheel off. I'll show you that the end of the crankshaft here has a taper on it, and that this really is held in place by the taper. This is strictly for setting your timing and making sure it's top dead center. Well, we're going to advance the timing and make it about 5 degrees in advance, more or less. See how that works out. Hold on to your hats. I got to put a puller on here. I pulled my 2 filler screws out. They're just there to fill the holes up, make it look better. And we'll get that off of here, and we'll take a look, and then we'll reset the timing, give it some advance, And if you know anything about engines at all, if you give them a little bit of advance, they will have more bottom end torque and take off better. So that's what we're aiming for in this situation. Now I've got my puller all set up on there, and we're going to run the impact. And I wanted to show you something. The puller should have like a cone-shaped piece here, and there is a recess on the end of the crankshaft. Well, I don't have that cone chrome-shaped piece, but what I do have is a bolt cap screw that fits into the hole on the end of my puller rod, and it's cone shaped, so that will help to keep my piece centered on the end of the crank. We'll see how well this works. I'll set you up here. We'll bring our big impact driver, and it should pull that right off of there. A lot of pressure on there, and I've got grade 8 bolts on my puller. Let me give it a whack on the end and see if that'll help it to pop loose. Sometimes that's what you gotta do. And that ain't that, that certainly is not that key that's holding that in place. We're pulling out this way. And it hasn't popped yet. I have to give it a little more juice to it. Well, this is the next day. This is Tuesday, April 2nd. And I've been hammering away on this thing. I've actually swapped these bolts. Were originally in these holes here. I swapped them over here. I took out my regular electric impact drivers. I thought maybe my battery-powered one wasn't powerful enough, and that hasn't been working, and I've whacked on it. You can see I've knocked the paint off there and there, and I've hit it on the top edge, whacking it on here, which is normally what you do, and that puppy is still on there. So I'm going to keep on trying. When I finally get it, then I'll bring you back. Never had one come off this hard. And you guys are worried about the flywheel turning on the crankshaft? Oh, never you mind about that. Well, just in case you wonder if there's a lot of pressure on these bolts or not, this is a grade 8 bolt, and I just snapped it off right there in the block, and I still haven't got that flywheel off yet. And I've been pounding on it, and I put penetrating oil down in here. I put penetrating oil on the shaft of my puller, which might be why it gave a little more grab, because it hadn't been twisting when I had put it on this way. And when I put a little bit of penetrating oil on it, I think it started to pull in more, and it finally snapped that bolt. Thankfully, I still have 2 bolt holes. Not sure if I've got another grade 8 bolt or not. Well, I did have a couple more grade 8 bolts. We're going to try it again. I got a different piece here from another puller identical to it. We'll try and see what happens. Don't think I can get down behind there enough to get penetrating oil on the back side of the crank. Maybe I can. Let's see if I can get in there with my schnozzle or not. I got some sprayed down in there. Let's see what happens. Back it off a little bit here. Try it again. Going crooked. Not turning anymore. Baby's on there tight. I'll put a pry bar on one side. Usually you want it to be equally pulling. Oh, there it comes. Woohoo! Finally, I didn't even have to hit it with a hammer that time. Wow. So if you guys are worried about that thing jumping off the crankshaft without having the timing key on there, don't you worry a little pea-picking hearts at all. It's the penetrating oil being sprayed in down behind, down in there, as well as up front here, made the difference in getting this to pop off. I've been doing this for 2 days and beating on it and hammering with the impact gun, and you can see there is my timing key right there. Now I'm going to slide it back in, not tight, but just enough so I can turn the crank. Well, no, I'm not going to. I'm just going to take it off. Like that. Okay, so I'm going to want to turn my crank so that I have the key straight up and down. Okay, I'm going to crank it around now until I get my key straight up and down. And there it is. You can see the key right on the top. So the next thing I got to do is I got to clean this all off, make sure I get all the oil off of it, and do the same thing to the inside of the flywheel, and then we'll put our flywheel back in place and advance the timing. Well, a little cleanup and a fresh coat of paint. She'll be ready to go back on tomorrow. Yeehaw! Okay, it's all cleaned, and the flywheel has been cleaned, and you can see where my keyway is right there. I'm going to slide the flywheel in place. Now, if it were to line up with the keyway, it would be right there. But I'm going to put it one notch over, which would make it, I'm guessing, about 5 degrees advance. Whoops. Don't forget your compression washer, George. Need to clean that. It's got some silicone on it. And it's a convex washer, so it pushes extra pressure on there. We put our thrust washer on there. We put our nut on there. And then we're going to take our impact wrench, put a big huge socket on it. We're going to ram that thing home. There it is. Now, I have one choke hooked up. Let's see how it runs. Let me pull the choke out a little bit. Let me get over where the gas pedal is. I'm going to run the gas pedal too. I think it has a lot more throttle response. So until next time, this will conclude this video, which has taken several days, mainly because of that stupid thing right there. Yes, sirree, Bob, but we got it off finally, and I learned something. I guess if it don't come off right away, you need to put some penetrating oil on there, and that seemed to make all the difference, because I'd hammered on it and pounded on it, changed pullers, changed impact drivers, the whole 9 yards, and it wasn't until I put some penetrating oil on it, PB Blaster to be exact, that it actually came off. And it only took a very short time before it penetrated enough with the hammer going on it that it popped. All right then. Thanks for watching, commenting, subscribing, thumbs up, sharing, all them good things. It ain't gonna be long now. We have a visitor to the chicken coop today. Pretty big guy. Long. I believe it's a rat snake. He's probably waiting to get a meal.
What's the matter?
There's his head right there. Yeah. He's waiting for mice to come out. We got lots of them around. Not far from him is this hole right here. He's just patiently waiting for a mouse to come out so we can grab a hold of him. I hope he does. We've had to, yeah, you can see there's another hole down under there. We've had to take him out of the nesting boxes before.